Right now on our Lewis Automotive Hotline is Hall of Fame sports writer and sportscaster Grant Hall. You do the intro, you get to throw the Hall of Fame in there. They don't induct you for no reason at all. That's how you get in. It's how you get, Grant, that's how you get introduced until the end of time. Just like DiMaggio always demanded to be introduced as the greatest living ball player, and he would put someone in their place if he wasn't. Just make sure next week, if I don't introduce you properly, put me in my place.
Well, I appreciate it, Phil. I've only been that since age 76, so for a little year and more. So it is kind of nice to hear it. But I imagine you want to hear about all things Ryder Cup, right?
Yes, Tommy Fleetwood getting his win. Let's go, Grant.
They got the 6 selections today. He went in order. You wondered how Keegan Bradley would do this, and if he was going to name himself, would he save it for the end for the most ratings, and a couple of people yesterday on Sirius Satellite Radio indicated he would not pick himself. That ended up being the case. Keegan Bradley went with off the points list, 7, 8, 9 with Justin Thomas, Morikawa, and Ben Griffin. And then he picked Cantlay, and he picked Young was 4th, Cantlay was 5th, and Sam Burns was 6th. And it was kind of interesting because in the interview, one of those guys, I think Young gave it away when he mentioned the other guys on the team, and he mentioned Burns. So you knew when it got 12 that Keegan wasn't going to pick himself. And I think it's a breathtakingly selfless act by him. He was 11th on the list. I don't think any of the guys would have had an objection if Keegan had picked himself, especially after this last week when he played so well. But he said during that final event that he was really tired, and even Monday, he's had this thing worked out since Monday. Justin Thomas said that he was gutted that Keegan did not pick himself, and that Keegan himself probably was. But I think ultimately it just came down to these guys that he picked have all done well this year. Maybe not so much Morikawa, who has only had one top 10, I think, since March. Even Cantlay, who had a great tournament this last week, has not won in 3 years, and showed no emotion either in his phone call, with Keegan Bradley, or today just kind of sitting there, But he's been a good partner to Schauffele in the past. And Morikawa, even though he struggles putting, is a great ball striker. So I was kind of pulling for Keegan to pick himself. I was kind of pulling for Maverick McNeely and even Chris Goddard up a little bit. But it was going to be hard no matter how he did it. And I'm really impressed. I do think also, though, that Keegan probably knew that if he picked himself and they didn't win, he'd never live it down. That especially in his stomping ground there in New York.
Why is there a tradition? I mean, let me come from being a total layman here, and you know that about me about golf. Why is there this tradition that the captains don't play in the Ryder Cup?
Well, I think it's just gotten to all the events, the corporate things leading up to it. There was some talk about that today. No one's done it since Arnold Palmer in 1963. And as a matter of fact, Keegan Bradley said he wished he could have talked to Arnold Palmer about it. But I think also it's been that they've been picking guys of an age that they're kind of past their playing prime. And so it hasn't been as much of an issue. Now with Keegan at age 39 having really probably his best year this year, it became such a story. I think I said last week it was 50-50. But, it's just the event has gotten so big. You wonder sometimes if it's almost too big in terms of winning. And I hope the fans at Bethpage behave themselves this year.
Hey, what about Tommy Fleetwood getting his first victory on tour, Fairway Jesus? I've always kind of been a fan of his, an Englishman. Do you think this maybe propels him next year to maybe win a major, or do you think this is probably his best victory ever?
I think he could have a major in his future, Matt, and I thought it was fantastic that he won. I was pulling for him. It's interesting, that it'll be just the opposite everybody at Augusta this year was pulling for Rory to win, and it seemed like most of the fans were pulling for Fleetwood, even over the Americans. But of course, that'll be totally reversed when they represent Europe coming up in the Ryder Cup. But he's just such a selfless guy. He handled everything great. Even when he knocked it in the water on 15, he's fist bumping fans all the way up the line there to the green, and I think that got him a lot of fans.
Hey, Grant, I know you watch all the pressers from the players, and you're in on all of the coach pressers leading up to the season. The thing that really stood out for me yesterday is that Arkansas is playing in FCS school out of the SWAC in Alabama A&M, and they're watching Division II film because Alabama A&M's head coach was at Miles College the last few years. That's a Division II program, and they have 11 players from that Miles team last year on this year's Alabama A&M squad. So you're playing an FCS school, you're watching Division II film, and then you get into the real portion of the season next week.
Yeah, that is interesting. And their coach, I think they're in their coaching staff. They've had playing ties to Alabama and Auburn, so they've been in big moments. But I noticed yesterday, or someone said there was 42.5-point line. There's no real, you're not going to see a newspaper line because you're playing in a different division. But if that's the case, I would think Arkansas might cover by the third quarter. And I look for big days from maybe guys like Sharp or, these young receivers. You've got 5'8" and 5'9" guys back there, even Shanks, who maybe he'll break a punt return. I think that if they're going to go cover zero, Matt, and try to cover man-to-man, you could see some long plays. I would expect Talon to have 4 or 5 touchdown passes in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want him to press, and I'm with you. I think he can make this game whatever he wants it to, but I'm not really too worried if he only has 2 touchdowns or 0 touchdowns. I want to see how crisp they are. I want to see him get in the right play. I want to see 0 fumbles by the offense, and I also want to see the defense fly around and tackle. And you don't. The thing that worries me, and maybe the coaches are being a little coy because they know more than we know. They've been around these kids. But I want to see that D-line. I don't want to see a 100-yard rusher against a Division II program, Alabama A&M, which I know they're not D2, but you know what I'm saying. You don't want to see a 100-yard rusher this first game of the year.
Yeah, I don't want to see 17 points by the other team. I don't want to see long pass plays by them. That's what if this defense can hold them to 7 or 10 or 0, that's really what you want to see out of that. It's hard in today's football. I don't care who you're playing, I want to see a great day by the defense.
Hey, Grant, we were talking earlier about Eric Gregory making the Bengals as an undrafted free agent. And Matt, I mean, maybe the greatest, one of the greatest, certainly undrafted free agents of all time was a college teammate of yours, and Jason Peters. What do you remember about when he was coming out of Arkansas, was out of eligibility? Was it known that he was going to sign somewhere because he's such a great athlete? It was a matter of finding a position, because you just don't find players like him too often. I'm not saying Eric Gregory is going to go into the Hall of Fame. It's just you never really know.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we saw a lot of names on the list yesterday of Razorbacks that got waived or released who were pretty prominent. And, it's really interesting. You've talked about this too. Tesla making 3 touchdown catches in preseason and after catching 25 balls last year or something. And then the guy that caught 78, Armstrong, didn't make it onto the roster. Now maybe some of these guys will resurface through practice squads and things like that. I think Dan Skipper got cut again. He's really been off again, on again for a long time in his career. But I think mostly it shows that's why Arkansas hasn't been as good the last 10, 15 years as fans wanted to be, and not a whole lot of guys in the NFL.
Hey, what's your final take, I guess, on this Micah Parsons deal in Dallas? You know, since 2021, he's had the highest pass rush rate efficiency, meaning if he's one-on-one, he's been able to hurry the quarterback the most. He has the best rating out of all of NFL football. Chances are he plays opening day. Does he make it week 2? When does Micah Parsons suit up for the Dallas Cowboys?
Man, that's a great question, Matt. I heard a really good interview with Randy Galloway, a longtime friend who's finally retired, I think, in the media in Texas. But he's known Jerry for a long time, and he felt that Jerry believed he had a commitment personally from him that he was going to play. And then the agent got involved and called and said no. You know, and this was for like a $200 million offer, unprecedented for a non-quarterback.
Yeah, it was like 4 years, I think, around $200 million. Yeah.
And I think it got personal with Jerry, and so they're at this impasse now. And I really couldn't predict what's going to happen there. By the way, it was great to see Jimmy Johnson in his quotes, calling the Hogs and all that stuff, and how much the Razorbacks meant to him. It took a long time for him to get back to this point. He was gutted when he did not get the job when Ken Hatfield got it. And, good to see him at age 82 back in the state. And kudos to David Basil for helping bring that about.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, HOGS, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's, where bettors win together, because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Got a little jingle